What is going on, guys? Today we will tackle the topic of how to VOD review. I thought to myself, what topic will help my viewers get better at League of Legends in the most efficient way? And the thing that I came up with was VOD reviewing. Now, there are a whole lot of videos in YouTube. I actually made one myself about how I got from Iron to Challenger in 100 games. Like, I'm sorry, but every single one of them are giving you like specific tips that you really cannot implement on every champion and on every role. So I wanted to give you guys something that you can implement on any role and on any champion in order to get better. So with all of that, let's get right into the guide. So the first point that we're going to tackle is the importance of VOD reviewing and why are we even doing this? VOD reviewing is the most efficient way to improve your gameplay. This is because while VOD reviewing, what could you have done differently in order to make a certain play work? Now, unlike a live game, you can actually direct 100% of your attention into it and pause the VOD and think what you can do differently. But in a live game, you have to think about so many different variables that you can't do it. You need to think about poking, how should you wave manage properly, how do I dodge this auto attack, what ability do I have up, what is my level, what is the opponent level, should I roam, how much gold do I have, where's the opponent jungle, is there a fight in the top lane, what objectives are up, and more. So if you need to think about all of these stuff, but at the same time think about how do I improve, that's just too much. And exactly because of that, if you won't have to think about all of these stuff, you can push them aside and directly think about what do I need to do in order to improve. You will just improve way faster and come up with better solutions. The right VOD reviewing process. In the previous year, I got all the way from Gold 4 to Diamond 1 within 150 games, and I'm currently trying to achieve Grandmaster while constantly VOD reviewing. And I'm not saying that to brag. No, that's not my point. My point is that I'm actually VOD reviewing for a whole lot of time. I came up with wonderful tips that I want to give you guys, and I think that these tips can help you guys improve your gameplay as well. Yeah, let's go right into the tips. The first tip that I have is review games one day after you've played them. And this is because after you just play the game, you're kind of emotionally invested in the game and you can't completely think straight. Usually happens, at least to me when I'm doing that, is that I see a play and even though the play was wrong, in my brain it still feels like the right play. I'm just coming into the VOD extremely invested in the game and my opinion is biased and I can't view it from the right perspective. And one thing that I did to solve it is just give myself 24-hour chill period, and after I chilled out, after I'm not emotionally invested in the VOD, I can review it properly. The second point that we have is reviewing the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game first, and that's an extremely important one, by the way. This is because League of Legends is really similar to chess in a way. League of Legends is really similar to chess in a way, where the first move you make would impact you throughout the later stages of the game. Let's say that I farmed like Iron up until 20 minutes into the game, and I got 3 CS per minute, and we're 20 minutes in, and suddenly I get into a fight at the 20 minutes into the game, and I view that fight and I think about a bunch of ways that I could have played better, but in reality it doesn't matter because I'm sitting on 1.5 item and boots probably with 3 CS per minute. I'm sitting on 1.5 items, and if I would have farmed properly, I would have been with 3 items and boots by now, or 2.5 items and boots by now, and I would have just butchered the enemy team much faster. And then all of these fixes that I made are just not relevant anymore. Up until, I would say, probably high masters or low masters, I would go as far as saying you should review only the first 10 to 15 minutes of your gameplay, and only after that you should go towards the mid and late stages of the game, after you refine your early game, and your early game is nice. Your early game is pretty nice. Now, the third point, focus mainly on a certain game fundamental for a week. Focus mainly on a certain game fundamental for an entire week before you're moving into another game fundamental. And not only that, but focus on a certain game fundamental. So there are actually 2 points in here. The first one being focus on it for an entire week. And why am I saying an entire week? This is because it takes the human brain 1 week to build a habit. If you were to focus a game fundamental for 1 day and then just forget about it, all right, you might remember it for the upcoming week, but afterwards you will just forget it and then you've literally done nothing. As opposed to that, you can improve upon 1 game fundamental for an entire week, and then it sticks to you and it can't move. Even if it will go 2 months from now, even if we will look at our gameplay 2 months from now, we will still remember it because it still sticks to us. Now, the second point would be focus on a certain game fundamental. And that would be focus on somewhere between 1 to 2 game fundamental every week. And this is because this would just allow you to go into much more details. It won't be like really tiring, because if you will try to focus on everything, each VOD review will take you like, I don't know, 13 minutes, and it will just be really tiring and you won't manage sticking to your process, and it just won't do good. Now, the last point that we have here, min-maxing our improvement. And I love this one, and this is what we're going to talk about in the upcoming couple of points. Now, min-maxing your improvement. You can view it and use my method. And the method that I use, I view myself as the main character in an MMORPG game. So in MMORPG game, you have like your stat chart, and in the stat chart, you have your star, you have your dex, you have your int. Just like that, you have the same stuff, but in League of Legends terms. In League of Legends terms, it would be laning, farming, team fighting, mechanics, champion mastery, and map awareness. And in each of these areas, you have like multiple game fundamentals. Let's think about map awareness and warding, for example. We would have map awareness, we would have the warding, we would have jungle tracking, we would have warding locations, we would have warding around objectives, etc. And the one thing that we have to bear in mind, firstly, we need to rate ourselves in each of these areas. So like 3 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, etc. And then we need to understand that the higher you are at a certain area, the smaller and more specific the improvement is going to get. I previously told you the higher you are on a certain skill set, the more specific and harder it gets to improve upon it. I just want to give you guys an example so you will be able to understand what I'm saying more easily. So let's take the trading game fundamental as an example. If I were to be a new League of Legends player and my trading would have been 1 out of 10, one thing that I could have done to improve it and get to level 2 out of 10 would have been something such as understanding that I need to engage on my opponent if I'm 1 level ahead of him. Which, for us, it probably sounds pretty obvious. Well, I'm a level ahead, I have more stats. In levels between 1 to 2 and 2 and 3, I have an extra ability, right? It sounds pretty obvious. But for a new player, it's not as obvious as it is to us. But as opposed to level 1, if I were to be level 6 out of 10, my focus would have been way more specific. It could have went to things such as remember enemy key cooldowns and play around these cooldowns. If my opponent just used an abilities, then let's engage because it's currently on cooldown. Or it could be things such as release an ability at the same time my opponent tries to last hit, because that would force him to either miss the last hit or get hit by my ability. And with that being said, it is just easier to improve upon things that you're worst at, because not only it's easier to spot them, and the improvement itself is just way easier. Alright, so now that we understand the min-maxing method, let's go into the VOD reviewing process itself. Firstly, we need to understand what game fundamentals we want to direct our attention towards. And the way that I usually do that is either by assessing my numbers, as I mentioned before, or just spectating a game and seeing what mistake I've made a couple of times. And then after looking at my VODs, after looking at 1 or 2 of my VODs, I know approximately where am I standing at and what is my weakest point. And then, and this is the second point that we have over here, please write it down. And I will show you real quick my own, like, how do I write it down? For like right now, for example, I'm working at my trading and more specifically on tracking cooldowns. And I'm telling you guys to write it down because not only you remember what you're working upon for the upcoming week, but on top of the fact that you remember that, after you wrote things down, you're kind of accountable to them and you understand that you need to do that if you want to improve your gameplay and become better at the game. Not only that, this allows you to remember that you gotta work on it for a week and this will actually allow you to see the improvement, which is really, really nice. Let's talk about your POV as opposed to VOD. And that's a really important one. Let's understand when I need to use my own POV and when should I use the League of Legends VODs tool. So in League of Legends, there are two main ways to VOD review. The first one being your VODs from the League of Legends. The second method is viewing my VOD from a software such as like Overwolf, OBS, and whatever else software where you can actually see the clicks that I'm doing, you can see how I pan my camera, and you're getting way more information that you can work. And this is the right way to review in 99% of the cases. And there are really specific cases that you should go into the other way of reviewing, which is the League of Legends download replay. You would download the replay and view it from the replay if there are things that you cannot see from your own VOD. And one great example that I had like the other day was I played Varus and I tried to hit my opponent in Fog of War, and what I noticed is that my opponent dodged my Q as soon as I released it, and it looked really weird to me. And once I went to the VOD, I actually saw that I wasn't in Fog of War, and his minion gave him like vision on me, and that's why he dodged. And this is actually one way that I am using to get a lead in every single one of my games. So that was a really great way to fix it. I would view games from my own POV if possible in 99% of the cases, but if there are things that I want to check, such as that has to do with Fog of War, how does the opposing team sees us, or jungle tracking, or things that I can't see from my own POV, then I would go to the VODs. What is my lane matchup? And this is actually one of the key things to look at in every game, every single one of your games. In the current game, we're talking about a Varus versus Tristana. What is my champion identity considering the runes? And what is the opposing champion's identity? Saying considering the rune, because usually Tristana's champion identity would actually be, all right, I want to all-in him with my PTA or Hail of Blades, get the 3 auto attacks and bail. Now we can actually see that she's playing with lethal tempo. So her champion identity would actually be to go for longer fights, while my identity with the Hail of Blades would be go for short trades and bail out. One more thing that we want to look at is jungle matchup. And once again, look at the runes. You don't always know what is your opponent wants to do, and the main thing that kind of tells you what will this person probably be looking to do is his runes. The best way to think about the jungle matchup, look at his runes, and the runes will tell you what will this person probably or should be looking to do. So in this game, we have a Varus, early game Varus with a Hail of Blades, versus a Tristana that wants to go for longer trades and scale towards the later stages of the game. In the 1v1, I have the exhaust as opposed to her teleport, so I don't want to give her good resets. And in the jungle matchup, we have this Xin Zhao, which is a really good ganker, as opposed to Echo, which is a champion that usually wants to scale, occasionally